If you had at your fingertips the means to change the world for everyone you know, how long would it take for you to make that happen? I'm Jonathan Albin, and I'm starting a Roleplaying Revolution. I'm setting up this Patreon account to provide a communication network and a resource for this purpose. Revolutions don't just happen, and with your help, I believe we can achieve a higher level, pun intended, of role-playing excellence. As you may know, Patreon is a means by which artists and creators can share their creations with those who seek and appreciate them. It offers a direct interaction with the creative process, a means of open communication and early access to what is being created. So before we get going, I want to thank you for your interest and curiosity. Some of you know what I've been trying to do, but many of you don't. So this video is intended to try to clear that up. With more than 50 years behind the game master's screen, as the saying goes, I have seen a lot of innovation and a lot of imitation in the game mechanics theater. I've seen systems come and go, players too, but some things have simply stuck around way too long. If you're a role player, you may already know some of the things that I'm talking about. But we'll get there soon. I'm digressing a bit. If you know anything about me, you know I'm absolutely passionate about the concept of play. I've been a game master for more than 50 years, but what I've discovered in the past few years has blown my mind. This surprising revelation that came to me during the COVID pandemic, while I was actually running games 9 times a week, has just floored me. Now, before I reveal the details, I want to thank those players that have stuck with me for the duration, for good or ill, for all the years that we've played together. Those who played in my sessions during the pandemic did learn a lot, and so did I. And it was precisely in that online environment of roleplay games that the epiphany that I needed crossed my mind, and it shook me to the core. As a matter of fact, it stunned me so badly, I had to do something about it. Which brings me back to the question, if you had the means to change the world, how long would you wait before you did something with it? With this Patreon and this mystery that I have just recently solved, I have devised a proposal that does just that. And the change can start right now. It's a simple thing, really, and it doesn't take a lot of effort. Just perhaps a change in your viewpoint, in the very way you look at things. No biggie, right? I'll be honest, it took me more than 50 years to it took me 50 years to get here. But what I must share is going to make all the difference in my world, in your world, in the world. Are you ready? Welcome to Nikos. Now, to tell this story properly, we have to go all the way back to the 1970s, back when I started. In the aftermath of the U.S. involvement in Vietnam and Korea, and on the heels of our success here in the U.S. during World War II, the concepts of how warfighting was accomplished were pretty solid in the mind of those involved, both government and military personnel, and those who were actually devising combat simulations, war games, and any form of combat game. Almost universally, it was apparent to all of those who were involved that the key to success, and functionally the only way to win in a military conflict, was by denying the opponent the capacity to continue his warfighting efforts. That means logistics. We had in the U.S. come to realize that any opposition that was on a war footing depended upon their supply lines. If you could interdict their ability to get to those resources, you slowed their advance, negatively impacted all the stages of their strategies, and eventually drew them down to surrender. So when the guys at CSR started working on the developing of the Dungeons & Dragons mechanism, it is no wonder that they utilized that same concept in gameplay. And the efficiency with which it does cover most of the bases has stuck around to the present. From the white chainmail boxes to the blue box of Dungeons & Dragons, all the way to the current 5th edition of that game, as well as most other RPG mechanisms that are out there that track individual players. They are all still using this general mechanic in their operating systems, and I'm talking about tabletop as well as electronic. Now, while you're thinking about what that ramification might mean, let's think about a separate parallel. If I told you that you had to go to the dentist and that he was going to use 1960s technology on you, how would that make you feel about that trip? Would you feel confident that you were going to get as good a care as you would using modern technology, modern strategies, modern mechanisms? Now, don't get me wrong. Role-play games have advanced considerably over the years, and the video games marketplace is chock full of admirable offerings. In fact, the speed of computers in processing video information has become quite stunning, and in many ways has outstripped the tabletop RPG for that reason alone. But there's one phrase that I want to mention, and I think you'll see why this one is still problematic today: the process of combat. In particular, games that allow the player characters to build up large pools of life points, whatever you call them, create an undue burden on the storyteller and therefore on the players themselves from an action economy standpoint, and in being able to present a theatrical game experience. If, on the other hand, those games focus instead on the theatricality, they tend to become abstract and difficult to comprehend what the numbers actually mean in the game, which draws you to thinking about the numbers, not the game, and defeats the purpose. What I've come upon and what I've created using the Passages mechanism and the Dark Shard setting in particular is a solution to the slog and the burdens of character building and story origination. As you check out the material here on the Patreon page, as well as the resources available through our World Anvil partnerships and our Discord account, you'll begin to see how this plays out. So now the question I asked earlier becomes important. If you have experienced these phenomena, if you want to skip the slog and get back to the serious business of having fun and theatricality in your roleplay games, why not join our community? Help me achieve this vision, and together let's change this world and all of the others that we role players know are out there. I'm Jonathan Albin, and I thank you for your time.